Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to discuss something extremely important if you are using injectable peptides. So we will cover how you mix them and then how to calculate the dose and how you're going to inject them into your body and how you're going to rotate the injection sites. Because you can have the correct peptide and the correct intended dose also, but still you may get inconsistent result if something goes wrong between the powder in the vial and the peptide reaching your bloodstream, right? So there are basically five important links in this process. First of all, you will have to mix the peptide, and then you have to draw the correct amount of peptide which is required, and then the injection technique, the way you inject at the injection site and the site rotation. Let's understand all these one by one. So the first and probably the most misunderstood concept is this: a unit of an insulin syringe is not a peptide dose. Okay, you may hear someone will say that 10 units equal to 1 mg. How can it be? See, that can be correct for one particular vial mixed in a particular way, right? But you change the amount of backwater that you're using or the sterile water you are using. Instead of 1 ml, if you are putting 2 ml, then that 1 mg become 0.5 mg or 10 mg become 5 mg. So it all depends on multiple factors like how much water you used, and then 10 unit represent a completely different amount of peptide. Then if you are mixing with 1 milliliter and then 2 ml, right? So how much backwater you're using, depending upon that also it will change. So before understanding units, we first need to understand the concentration. Suppose you have exactly 5 milligram of peptide powder in two different vials. So 5 mg is what you have. Now I have this 5 mg, I have this 5 mg. Now here I am adding 1 ml of sterile water or the backwater. Here I am using 2 ml. Now see here both, if I am taking 1 ml here 1 ml 5 mg, here also 5 mg 1 ml. Both still contain how much peptide? 5 mg only. But here I have added 1 ml, here I have added 2 ml. So compared to this, I'll have to draw double the amount to get the equal amount of peptide. So nothing happened to the total amount of peptide inside that. The concentration is different. So here you diluted more. So the vial with less water here is more concentrated. Here less concentrated. So therefore what happened? If you want to obtain the same peptide dose that you are using here, you will have to use double the quantity here, or less here is required, more here is required, double here is required. So the vial with more is actually more diluted. So you have to draw more liquid to obtain exactly the same peptide dose as of this. Double the quantity you'll have to draw. That means the amount of backwater you add, that basically determines what every marking on your syringe represent. So you can't blindly take 1 unit as 1 ml or something like that, right? And that is why reconstitution is not simply preparation before dosing. In fact, that is the most important point, right? Reconstitution is actually determining the concentration from which your dose is actually calculated. So for example, if I have, let's say, one complete insulin syringe, if you take, that's 1 ml, right? And each of these units, so total 4 unit 1 ml, 8 unit, that means I have 2 ml. Now I have 10 mg of retatrutide. So if I am adding 2 ml, which means then I can draw 1 unit 1 unit 1 unit like that. So 10 mg and 2 ml is what I'm using, and 1 ml is your 4 unit, 2 ml is your 8 unit. So 10 mg is what I've taken. Now to get 2.5 mg. How much I need? I need 2 units of this, because 2 unit is 0.5 ml. Another 2 unit 0.5 ml. So total it is 1 ml, right? And 1 ml will be half of what you have added. That is 0.5 mg or 5 mg. Overall it is 10 mg. I hope that is very clear. So if 10 mg is there, 2 ml backwater you have added, 2 unit you need to take if you want to get 2.5 mg. Simple. So this is how you will have to calculate. I can give another example. See, measuring 5 or 10 units is generally much easier than trying to accurately measure something like 1.5 units. That is very much difficult. But if I have Reta of 10 mg, right? Now I'm mixing with 2 ml. So I can tell you 1 ml is how much? 1 ml is 0.5 mg, because 2 mg is what I have. I'm mixing with 2 ml. So 1 mg, 1 ml, if you see, that will be 5 mg. I need to take 2.5 for my injection. Per week, if I'm using 2.5 mg, I want half of 1 ml. I've totally added 2 ml. So 1 by 4, because 10 mg is what I have. I want to use 2.5. That is 1 by 4. So here 2 ml is what I've added. What is 1 by 4th of that? That is 0.5 ml. 0.5 ml means just the 2 units. That is the way you can calculate. So I hope that is very clear. Again, let's talk about the water itself. There are some people who ask me whether I need a back water or a sterile water. See, for a multi-dose vial, it is better to have bacteriostatic water rather than a plain sterile water, because backwater contains a preservative intended for repeated vial access. So before mixing, what you can do is clean the tops of both the vials, and when adding the water also, don't aggressively spray it directly onto the peptide powder. See, aim towards the side of the vial and allow the water to run gently down the glass. And don't shake the vial aggressively. Gently swirl or roll it and allow it to dissolve. Just do like this. So once properly dissolved, the solution should remain normally appear very clear. And if it remains cloudy or it contains some visible particle after the mixing, then don't simply assume everything is fine and inject it. Okay, so that may have some contamination or something. So after constitution, and the storage condition also matter. So what you can do is you can go for refrigeration. Don't freeze it, normal refrigeration, that is fine. Now comes to the most important dosing concept. So the units measure the liquid volume, right? Milligrams and micrograms, all that will be there in the peptide. So that is basically measuring the amount of the peptides. Unit, when I say in the syringe, that is the liquid volume. So both are completely different measurement. So if someone simply says, I take 12 unit of BPC 157, that doesn't actually tell you the peptide dose. So we need to know how many milligrams were there in the vial, how much backwater have been added in that, right? And therefore, what concentration it was created. So all these we need to know to understand how much peptide you're actually taking. Only then you can correctly convert that intended milligram or microgram dose into the syringe unit. So for a standard, 100 insulin syringe, remember the basic relationship that 1 ml equal to 1 cc, that is equal to 100 units. But you must actually verify the syringe type, because not every syringe uses the same scale. In fact, there are different, U40 versus U60 syringes, U100 syringes are there. So the confusing scale can produce a major dosing error. But normally what we use in India, it's the one which I've told you. You can see one insulin syringe, 4 units. That 4 units represent 1 ml. Okay. Now, as I told you, if you're mixing 1 ml backwater in 5 mg Retta, for example, 5 mg Retta, 1 ml you have mixed. So if I need to draw 2.5 mg of Retta, what I need? 0.5 ml in terms of liquid. So 0.5, how can I get? If one insulin syringe is 4 units and that's 1 ml, I just need to take 2 units. So 2 units is 0.5 ml. Okay, so 1 ml is what I mixed with 5 milligram of 5 mg of Retta. So I need 2.5. So I need 0.5 ml, that is 2 units. That's how you'll be calculating. So again, the same, right? I repeat this if you want once again, because some of you might still have the confusion. Retta, assume this is Retta, okay, vial, and this is 10 mg, okay, and I have 2 ml backwater. Calculate the concentration. So 10 mg divided into 2 ml, which means 2 ml, 10 mg. 1 milliliter, how much Retta? 5 mg. So if I need 2.5 mg, I need half ml, right? Now, your syringe is 1 ml. So half the syringe, and this 1 ml is 4 units. So how much I need? 2 units. I hope that part is very clear. So if your syringe is, let's say, 100 units, right? That syringe is 1 ml. Entire full syringe, if you take, you'll get 5 mg of Retta, because 5 mg is 1 ml. If you need half, what you need? Now, if you need 1 mg of Retta, you can adjust it accordingly, because total is 5 mg. You just need less than 1 unit, right? If you need 1.25, you need 1 unit. If you need 2.5 mg, you need 2 unit. If you need 3.75 mg, you need 3 unit. If you need 5 mg, you need 4 units. That is what the total 100, right? So that you can memorize, right? Now, see, don't just simply memorize the unit. You can understand how much milligram is there, how much I'm reconstituting. Based on that, you will have to do it. Again, suppose you have 5 mg of BPC 157 mixed with 2 ml bacteriostatic water. So earlier it was 10 mg with 2 ml. Now 2 ml and 5 mg. So 1 ml means 2.5 mg, right? And you can say 2.5 mg means 250 micrograms. So in 1 ml, I have 250 micrograms. So first convert everything into the same measurement. Like for example, 1000 micrograms equal to 1 mg. Therefore, you have 0.25 mg means what? 250 micrograms. Now you can calculate the concentration accordingly, right? If I need 1.25 mg, I'll take 2 units. Like that. 2 units means if I'm considering this 100 units, this is 4 units for me. 1, 2, 3, 4. Total insulin syringe is 100 units, right? That's how I'll calculate. So how many injections? Then you can say how many injection a vial should contain. So for example, 10 mg reta. Okay, I have mixed with 2 ml, and per injection it is 2.5 mg. I'm taking. So how many injections? 4 injections. So 2 ml, half. I'll reduce into half is 1 ml. That further I will reduce zero point 0.5. So 0.5, zero point 0.5, zero point 0.5, zero point 0.5 ml. That means 2 units, 2 units, 2 units, 2 units. Total 8 units. That's how it is done. So you'll have 4 doses for 10 mg reta. So that calculation is going to be very simple. Okay. Now, uh, yeah, let's look at the you know injection technique. So the common idea that we see is 90-degree goes into muscle and 45-degree keeps the injection in the fat. But needle length is also very important. That matters mostly, right? The idea comes largely from using much longer needles. With the very short needles commonly found in insulin syringes, going in at an angle can actually make the needle travel too superficially also. So, and that may potentially depositing the solution closer to the skin rather than properly into the subcutaneous fat. So that can contribute the welts and itching or foam bump after the injection also. So with an appropriately short needle that is intended for subcutaneous administration, then you can go with straight, even 100-degree also. But when you're holding the skin, then you will understand whether it is directly going to the muscle or skin, right? So 90-degree, that is not a problem. It is not necessary that you need to go like 45-degree. If the needle is so small, then 45-degree can be very superficial also, right? So pinching the skin, that depends partly on the body composition also. If there is plenty of subcutaneous fat, pinching may not always be necessary, right? But in very lean individual or people who have lost significant amount of fat, lifting the fat away from the structure underneath, that can help to maintain a subcutaneous injection. So the important is that needle length and tissue thickness matters, not simply memorizing that 45-degree or 90-degree. The needle gauge is another simple point, right? The higher the gauge number, the thinner the needle. So 31 gauge is thinner than 27 gauge. A thinner needle can make repeated injections more comfortable, which may improve consistency with the protocol also. And injection speed matters also. Don't force the liquid in extremely quickly, right? You cannot do that. So basically, push it slower over roughly 3 to 4 seconds. Injecting too quickly can increase, stinging, and it can contribute to liquid leaking back out when the needle is removed also. So let's get into the subcutaneous fat directly. 2-3 seconds you need to spend. Now let's discuss the final major issue, that is the injection site rotation. One of the easiest thing to ignore, because most people naturally develop a favorite injection site. Maybe it's the same side of the abdomen. It doesn't hurt. It's easy to reach. So you repeatedly inject into almost exactly the same area again and again. And over a period of time, that repeated injection can change the tissue, right? That fat may become thicker and it can become firmer. It can become a rubbery area also. This is what you call as, lipohypertrophy. And the interesting thing is that these areas may actually become more comfortable to inject because that local sensation can become reduced over there with repeated injections. So the site you prefer because it hurts very less eventually become the site that actually absorb medication less predictably now, right? Then something confusing will happen. You are using the same peptide, you're using the same vial, same calculated dose, same syringe, but the effects start becoming inconsistent. One injection seems to work normally, another is not working. So the problem may not necessarily be the peptide, it may be the tissue that is repeatedly being used. So what we need is, there are various injection research which is suggesting that poor site rotation is an important contributor to this problem that I have discussed just now. So in fact, it can largely come from insulin rejection also, rather than the problem with the peptide itself. So the underlying issue that basically involved that repeated trauma to the subcutaneous tissue, which is actually caused because of the multiple injections at the same sites itself. So what is required is a practical rotation strategy so that you can divide your injections into different regions. For example, you can do on your abdomen, right, and then left, and then either thighs you can do right and left, and either flank you can do right, and within each region again use different quadrant also, right? So use one general area for a period and then move to another area rather than repeatedly returning to the same small patch, right? And even within the same area, keep each injection approximately an inch away from the previous injection site. So the objective is very simple. Don't repeatedly inject into the same square inch of tissue. If an area already feels thickened or firm, because of the repeated injection, continuously injecting there, it is not going to solve it. Give that area time without injecting there again and use another appropriate sites also. So when someone is saying my peptide worked for the first couple of months and then suddenly stopped working, don't immediately assume that the compound itself stopped working. Look at the entire chain. Was it reconstituted correctly? Was it, correct concentration calculated? Was the correct syringe being used? And where the units confused with milligrams? And, was the injection already reaching subcutaneous fat or not? Was it pushed too quickly and has the same injection site being used repeatedly? There is also one final, variable that, technique cannot solve, whether the vial actually contain what the label claim. That is also there, right? So the perfect mathematics and perfect injection technique that cannot compensate for an incorrectly manufactured or mislabeled product. So the major lesson is that peptide administration is a chain. So first, it has to be proper mixing, and then proper concentration and a dose calculation appropriately, an injection technique and site selection and the rotation of the sites. And a mistake anywhere in that chain that can potentially create inconsistent results without being immediately obvious. So remember, the most important principle is a syringe unit is a measurement of liquid, not peptide dose. Peptide dose is measured in milligrams or micrograms. The amount of liquid which is required to deliver the dose, that depends entirely on the concentration created during the reconstitution process. So understand that one concept properly. If you can understand this, use a correct injection site technique, you can solve almost all the, and also rotate your sites consistently as well. And the entire process, then it becomes much more easier to understand also. So this is what I wanted to discuss about this mistakes that commonly people make when you're dealing with the peptide injections. So see you in another session. If you're looking for any one-to-one sessions, get in touch with me. See you.